Hello, and welcome to another episode of Teaching with Inquiry Live. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. We are going to be talking about managing teacher overwhelm, and I'm going to share with you some of the strategies and tips that I use to go from eliminating some of those things off of my to-do list. So to go from to-do to done. So strategies that we as teachers can use to fight the absolute bombardment of overwhelming experiences, especially as it comes nearing to the end of the year for many of us. I think we're probably in this zone right now. One of the reasons I think this is really important is I think we really need to talk about teacher mental health and how it really affects all of us. So about 2 weeks ago, I was driving home from picking up some trees at the local garden center. And on my way home, and it's not that far away from my house, on my way home, I was noticing that I was feeling really overwhelmed and that I was struggling to take really deep breaths. Like I was breathing, but I was taking very shallow breaths, and I had a hard time what felt like catching my breath. And I hadn't felt like this in a really long time, and I really wasn't sure what exactly was happening. So I went home and I talked to my husband about it, and he said to me, "Patty, I think you had a mild panic attack." And upon thinking about it and talking to a few other people that I know, I think that's perhaps what was happening. And I think it was just an overwhelming sense of dread about all of the things on my to-do list. And I think this happens to all of us. Now, I'm fortunate in the fact that this doesn't happen often for me, or that this is something that I can manage using some of the strategies that I've used often at this time of the year to combat some of that stress and overwhelm. But the idea that I had taken on too much and was having a physical reaction, even if it was a mild panic attack, to not dealing with some of the things on my to-do list, that got me thinking about what are some things that I know I can do to cut down on some of that stress and overwhelm and to really manage that to-do list so that I have an action plan and I have strategies that I can put into place. And I think it's really important to recognize that teachers are often bombarded through Pinterest and Instagram with all of these beautiful curated photos of perfection. And I think at this point in time in our classrooms, we are on survival mode, and we really just need to buckle down and get her done. And also realize that those perfectly posed Instagram photos are not necessarily the reality all the time for those teachers, and that even those teachers feel stressed out and overwhelmed just as we do. So in light of thinking about this time and how stressful it is, this is why I'm going to be spending some time this week and then some of the upcoming weeks talking about dealing with the stress and the overwhelm that comes with the end of the year. So I have 5 strategies that I use to help me when I finally recognize that I'm feeling stressed and overwhelmed. What are some of the 5 strategies that I can use to help to get my to-do list to the to-done list? Because for me, my stress and overwhelmed feelings and anxiety that comes on up from that is all helped when I am feeling on top of the things that I have to do and I have a plan and a plan of action. So 5 things. The first one is make a list. This is by far the best strategy that I would suggest for anybody who's feeling stressed and overwhelmed with a lot of things on their to-do list. So if you write it all down and make a list of all of the things that you need to get done, from small to big, you just kind of brain dump it down into a notebook and write it all down. Now, once you have it written all down, I think an important strategy is to code those things. Number them or color code them from 1 to 5. 1 being the most urgent priority things on your list, and maybe realize that not everything is a number 1. And then number 5 being the things that if it doesn't get done, it's not the end of the world. Most people probably wouldn't notice, and you can let it go until maybe some of your more urgent tasks are done. So if you code all of the things on your list in order of priority, 1 being the most necessary to get done immediately, and 5 being things that would be okay if you left it, then that will help you to prioritize what tasks you need to get done first. Now, I think that when you're looking at this list, when we're feeling stressed and overwhelmed, I think sometimes we feel like everything is a level 1. So I think it's important to really focus on the consequences of not doing those things on the list. What is going to happen if I don't do this on the list? And I think that will really help you to prioritize. I know it helps me to prioritize which ones of those things really are a number 1 or a number 2, because I have to think of the consequences of if I don't do that, what is going to be the consequence. So there's certain things on our list that we may think needs to be done right away, and we prioritize it a lot higher. So we might prioritize something that really should be categorized as a level 3 or a level 4 priority, and we put that as a number 1. Why? Well, I know I do that because it's a lot easier to hit and accomplish those level 3 and 4, like vacuuming or folding the laundry. Those level 4 tasks are things that we can know that we can get done, and we feel good because something gets checked off our list, but we really still haven't addressed the things that make us the most stressed and anxious, which are those level 1 priorities, which really we are avoiding. So for me right now, those level 1 priorities are definitely things like report card and finishing up a few more lesson plans for some of my products on TPT. And dance. There's a lot with dance going on with my kids. So there's all 3 of those things are definitely level 1 type stressors at the moment. Once you've made your list and you're looking at your level 1s and level 2s, then you really need to decide out of those which is the one you're dreading the most, and label that one as your frog. That is the thing you've got to do first. You've got to eat your frog first and get it done and over with. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to do it all at once, but set a reasonable time limit in which you are going to promise yourself to work on that task. Set a timer on your phone or on your iPad and work on that number 1 frog priority, the one you want to do the least, probably report cards, and set a timer for you to do that task, say for 30 minutes. And that's all you are having to do for that day. If you set a timer to do report cards for 30 minutes each day, then eventually you will start to feel that stress is getting more and more accomplished, and that it won't be as overwhelming as it once felt like. And then as you've done your frog, you can do some of your other things that might be on your to-do list. Also, when you are looking at your to-do list, seriously cut out a lot of the things that you wrote down, because some of them aren't even a level 5 priority, and they're things that when you've got a lot of level 1 type tasks to finish, then it's really time for you to kind of prioritize and say there's some things that just aren't getting done right now, and be okay with that, because you can't do all the things. And if it does need to be something that's done, employ your friends and family to help you to accomplish some of those things and delegate those tasks to others. My second strategy is to jump in, to stop procrastinating and just get started attacking that list. If you're constantly thinking about all the things you have to do instead of actually doing them, you're not really accomplishing anything. This is me all the time. I dwell and I think about all of the things I have to do, and then I avoid, and then at the end of the night, I feel worse because now I have even less time in order to accomplish those things I need to do. So sometimes I just have to be a grown-up, and I've got to put on my adulting pants, and I need to just jump in and get started on that list, even though I really, really don't want to. And I think it's important for you to set yourself up for success. Similarly, into how we help our students work independently, I think we need to make those own rules for ourselves. Find yourself a schedule, or get yourself scheduled. Looking at your weekly schedule, find 30 minutes that you can focus on the number one priority and set your schedule as being that time. Amy Porterfield is a popular podcaster that I listen to, and she calls this Tiger Time. This is a time she sets aside that is just for her. People know that she is busy. It's the time that she is going to work, and other people need to perhaps pick up the slack around the house to realize that you are unavailable at that time. Last Thursday when I was at school, I set myself up for some Tiger Time. I knew I didn't have anything with my kids scheduled last Thursday, so that was a great time for me to set up Tiger Time. I stayed a little bit later than I normally have been in my classroom, and I shut my classroom doors. I put on my noise canceling headphones, and I just got started on working on my report cards. Now, I blocked out an hour and a half for me to do that. And I closed my doors because it made it look like I wasn't there, so I could avoid distractions. Wasn't trying to be antisocial, but avoiding distractions. And thankfully, a lot of my coworkers had left for the day because it was Thursday and we're all done. And I also set limits. I knew I had a hard limit where I needed to go and get my kids from daycare, so I knew it wasn't going to go on forever and I wasn't going to be doing it all afternoon. I reduced the disruptions because I certainly had my noise canceling headphones on playing to music, so I kind of zone out. And I was in a room by myself where I knew I wasn't going to necessarily get distracted by the television. I can also set up on my computer a app called Rescue Time, where it will shut down my access to all social media. Now, I was talking to somebody a couple of months ago about what they do during their Tiger Time, and they literally take their phone and put it in a mason jar and tighten the lid so that they can see their phone. So if there's a notification that comes up, they can see it, but they can't actually touch it to respond. And they've just trained themselves to not open the jar and open it. So they can see if somebody's calling, so they're not going to be completely tuned out. They can, if they have to get access to their phone, they can. But it prevents them, a physical barrier between them actually touching their phone. I haven't tried that, but I think that it would be a good idea to try. My third tip is get active and work out. When I'm stressed and overwhelmed, one of the best things that I can do, and I never thought I'd be this person, but one of the best things I find I can do is go to the gym and work out. It is a time in my week, and I literally only have time to schedule it once per week, but it is a time in my week where I can only focus on burning energy and relieving stress through physical activity. Whether it's lifting 25-pound weights over my head, I don't have time to be thinking about my report cards at that time because all I'm focused on is not dropping those weights on my head. And getting a good sweat on is a great way to manage some of that pent-up energy that you might have about feeling stressed out about the things that might be on your to-do list. Now, you can go to the gym, schedule a time that you can go and be consistent, hold yourself accountable for that. You can always take a walk or a run, download a video from YouTube and work out to it, or an app on your phone and just give it a shot, or simply just focus on, if you're using a smartwatch or a Fitbit, you can work on closing your rings and meeting the fitness goals that you've set on that device for the day, and maybe up those goals a little bit and set some time specifically for you to do that. Or number 4, and this is a really hard one for me. The fourth tip is really changing your thinking. So The people that research about stress and things like that they will often say that stress is manufactured. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't external things that will cause you stress, because that's not manufactured. That is there. But how you respond and how you respond to that stressor is manufactured. And it's often the language that you're talking to yourself in, or how you're perceiving that event, will change the way you deal with it. So we can often get ourselves completely and totally worked up about the things that are happening to us and shut ourselves down and prevent us from being successful before we've even started. So I think when you have all of these stressors, which we do, report cards, end of the year, constant interruptions, our kids' things are going like crazy, everybody wants everything from us. Those are definitely stressors. And then compound that if you've got other things happening in your life, even beyond the job, then of course you have stressors and you are going to be stressed. But we can manage how we handle that stress through some of the cognitive behavioral thinking and our voice inside our head, and change the way we are thinking about those problems. We've got to listen to that voice, and we've got to purposely change what that voice is telling us and reframe how it is handling the different situations. Looking at things in a more positive way, having a gratitude journal, positive affirmations are all things that you can focus on to help you get over that issue. Focusing on the size of the problem. Now, this is something that I've often used with some of my students, but then I find when I get really stressed, I have to focus on this with myself, really identifying whether the problem that I'm having with something, am I making it bigger than it actually is? Am I inflating this problem to be a volcano instead of a glitch? And if it's a glitch, I would handle it differently than if it were a volcano. And I need to make sure that if I have all of these external stressors in my life, that my frustration tolerance is probably really low. And then I'm interpreting all of these glitches that are coming my way as volcanoes. So really be critical with yourself and try to reframe whether or not the problems that you're encountering and the things that are on your to-do list and the feelings of overwhelm that you're having, are they responses to glitches or are they responses to volcanoes? And number 5, my last tip to get from to-do to done and manage the overwhelm that we have in our lives is to have fun and be happy. No matter what, I think it's really important that when we are feeling stressed and overwhelmed, that we take time for ourselves and really take care of ourselves. That we find the time in our schedule to do things that we find fun and to do it without the guilt. Now, it may not mean that you can spend an entire weekend doing all of those things, but it's okay to schedule time in your day to have fun and to do things that are not necessarily related to your to-do list. And I think that helps us to get a balance in a stressful time when work is hectic, is to find the things that we like to do that allows us to de-stress. And we can't lose sight of it, and we can't be overwhelmed with the guilt that we're having fun, but we should be doing something else. Taking care of ourselves and doing something for ourselves and being with the people that we find fun is a good way to be able to manage your own mental health. So do what fills you up. For some of you, what fills you up, if you're an extrovert, is going to be being around a lot of people. If you're an introvert, it's probably just going to be home, maybe crawled up in your closet reading a book by yourself where no one can find you. That's totally okay too. But do what fills your tank. So if you are running on empty, find the thing that makes you happy, find the thing that fills you up, and try doing a little bit more of that. So schedule yourself some time. Teachers College was an extremely stressful time, and I didn't even have kids at that point, but it was an extremely stressful time. The amount of workload was overwhelming, still having a job and trying to spend any time with would-be husband was difficult. We really literally had to schedule time to spend with one another so that we could have a guaranteed time on a Saturday where it would just be he and I, while I also had a million things to do to finish my teacher's college assignments. And it felt really strange to set aside a scheduled time period for us to be together, to go out for lunch or to go for a walk at the park or just to hang out and watch a movie together. But it was weird, but it was also necessary, because if not, you will lose focus of what really is important and get sucked into the vortex of that to-do list. So those are my 5 tips for all of the things that you can do to help to manage the teacher overwhelm, to manage your stress, and get that to-do list to go from to-do to done. So just to review, it's make a list and jump right in and get started on something, not avoiding. Work out and de-stress through physical activity. Focus on your thinking and the size of the problem and decide whether it's a glitch or a volcano. And finally, do what's fun and find your happiness while in the midst of this overwhelm so that you don't get sucked in to be constantly working all of the time. So those are my 5 tips. Those are the things that I need to tell myself to fight the stress and overwhelm in my own life. And when I focus on those, I find that I am far more able to accomplish those things on my to-do list, and I feel better about being able to cross those things off that list. So if you are in the midst of feeling overwhelmed, what are some of the strategies that you use to help go from to-do to done on your to-do list? Drop your ideas in the comments so that we can all help to support one another in going from to-do to done. Thanks so much for joining me, and I will see you next week, where we will again talk a little bit more about teacher mental health strategies. Bye for now.